This episode is called The King of the Narrow Seas, but it should really be called The Secret Sex Lives of Targaryens. Welcome to Voice of the Fat Mantis, and my review of Episode 4 of House of the Dragon. Sexuality is all afoot in this episode. But basically, this entire episode is what sexual mores existed back in those fictional fantasy days and what people believe. It very much is there to challenge us as modern woke people who have opened ourselves sexual, where women are participating in a sexual revolution. And then there's this world where you get even a mere rumor can destroy a woman's life, which I guess things haven't really changed. But it even goes into the sex lives of the boring, the dull, and the disgustingness of the king and his teenage bride. They dive into everything, including visiting a brothel at one point. It's a sexually challenging episode of any show, as the other Game of shows didn't try to challenge you about any thought process of anything. They just kind of, just showed you depraved stuff and was like, this is how it goes. So we are going to get into every aspect of this very twisted but very important episode of House of the Dragon. But first, I'm going to have to ask you to like, share, and subscribe to Voice of the Fat Mantis so we can keep reviewing House of the Dragon and all this great fantasy stuff that we're being drowned in. Now let's get into Targaryen sex acts. I'm probably going to be demonetized because the amount of times I've used the word sex, but honestly, I don't think I'm up to monetization. I don't think I get anything for this. This is basically charity that I do for you because I love you. So at the start of our episode, an amazing scene is unfolding as it is Rhaenyra visiting different castles in different areas where different lords come to the table. They're invited by her father, and they line up and they come and they present themselves as an official suitor for her. This is the equivalent of a rich person's or a noble person's Sweet 16 or quinceañera. Basically, it's saying, my daughter is of age. Who's got offers? Who's worthy? Come up and prove that you're worthy. And that's what it is. He's very much presenting her off to the entire land of Westeros to see if she can truly find the right husband. And of course, they're all just fools. She has a reason not to like them all. It's probably because she hasn't met them until that very moment. And it's weird to have people lining up being like, I would like to bang you for eternity. That is awkward. Yeah, that is totally awkward. It ends up in a very comedic situation where a young man who's like a child, which he even says, oh, great, now they're presenting children. And she immediately turns him down, and someone insults him, and he pulls out a sword, and he gets into a fight with a much older guy. And as she's walking away, you hear the swords clashing and the fighting going on. Medieval combat is going on. And then you hear the stabbing and the gurgling of a death rattle. And you turn around, and the young man has killed the insulting, ignorant, asshole, bully, older guy. And I was like, yeah, marry that dude. Do it, girl. Do it. Of course, that's just run for gags. She sails back to Westeros, and while she's there, they get visited by Bloodworm. They get buzzed by this giant dragon. And even though Rhaenyra gets knocked over and hits her head, you see her face smirk up. Bloodworm hanging out around King's Landing is an indication that her uncle Daemon is there, and we all know they get along so well. And she rushes in there, and the way she watches him as he comes and he presents himself to the king, as he presents himself with the title The King of the Narrow Seas, she's watching from a distance. It's a combination of lust and love and a crush and fantasies of what could be. It's really beautiful. If you don't think about their family dynamic, it's really beautiful. But when you realize what's going on, it is a niece lusting after her uncle who definitely is leading her on. It kind of makes your skin crawl, right? Anyway, the night unfolds where we see all major and important characters have sex acts, and we see what their lives are like. For instance, in the middle of the night, the king wakes up and he immediately wants Alicent to come, and and a servant comes and goes, the king has requested your presence, and she's like, it's late. And you see she looks up and she's totally not into it, and they have the most boring, drab, disgusting, de-erecting sex scene that has ever been committed to film. And it's so funny that it's happening, but you feel sorry for this girl. She is at the stage of her marriage where she realizes she's young, he's old, and she wants excitement in her life. Meanwhile, he's at the stage of his life where he's at the point of not complimenting her anymore. And earlier in the thing, he was just totally rude to her in front of a bunch of people. Like, he doesn't even like her thoughts or opinions anymore. So, typical marriage. But the more interesting thing is that Daemon takes young Rhaenyra out on the town, and they go everywhere. They're secretly dressed as common folk, and they're drinking and they're partying. They're going to different taverns, and she's learning the way normal people are. But of course, basically, Daemon is showing off to her about how worldly he is. He understands how poor people is. It's basically the equivalent of like a white kid who's like, I used to know a black guy, and he drives his new girlfriend to the hood to try to impress her. He cops there. He's like, I know where to get drugs or something. It's exactly that. And, they get to see some horrible political play being played out, dissing their family, of course. Typical Game of Thrones shenanigans. But at the end, he brings her to a sex club. It's kind of a brothel, but I guess you don't have to purchase. I don't understand the whole situation. But it was a sex club where you can just do whatever, and the two of them finally get it on. Now, I know we've been saying this. The way they are, we've always been saying, just bang already. Just bang already. Now, I don't know if what happened in this episode can constitute banging, but I will say, we've wanted it to happen, and then when it's happening, you're kind of grossed out, and you say, please stop this. I want to say, please stop this. And he actually stops himself from going all the way. They're already fooling around. Lines have been crossed. In a modern sense, he'd be in jail right now. But he still walks. He's like, oh, curse this. He hits the wall and leaves. And he leaves her, and she leaves. Now, she gets back, and she, of course, she's still in the mood, and she also wants to piss off Daemon, right? As typical, when one woman gets pissed off from a man, she just goes to the next man to piss off the original dude. And that's what she does. So she ends up sealing the deal with her knight, Sir Kristen Cole, who was hanging outside guarding her room. And of course, this rumor spreads, and it ruins her reputation. It ruins her reputation with her best friend, Alicent. It ruins her reputation amongst the court. It ruins her reputation about lords who could possibly wed her, although she doesn't want any of those guys. And it almost gets Daemon cast out or killed. He's told to leave and go back to the Vale because her father is angry. And what it is these are the typical rules that you see. Women must be virtuous, or else. It was a tough thing to go through because we thought Targaryens could hook up with their family members, but I guess there are certain rules. It's like, it's okay to bang your uncle as long as you're married. It's alien to us. It's strange, but we do understand the father judging her. And it almost drives such a great rift, but something so interesting happens. He sort of believes her, and we all know, we've all been there at that state when somebody says something and you're like, I want to believe you and I'm going to kind of believe you, but deep down I still think there's a possibility that happened, and I don't know if I'll ever trust you again, but I'm going to pretend that I trust you. And that's what he's feeling, but ultimately she is able to talk enough smack about Otto Hightower. Otto Hightower, the king of the hand, is fired. Now, this is probably going to go back to bite the king in the ass. He's probably going to find a way to get revenge, particularly since his daughter is married to him and shares his bed. But I am so glad that Otto got bitch slapped in the face. It was like, yeah, I was loving that. That was an amazing part of this episode. We don't know where they stand on anything. And at the end, the proof that he doesn't really believe her is at the end, he has his maester bring her the medieval potion equivalent of a plan B. Yeah, they bring her some crazy tea that they're like, this is for unforeseen consequences to anything that may have happened the other night. And it's like, he's not going to say it, but we all know what's going on here. It's sad, it's messed up, and you just can kind of see she's disappointed in her father. And she's probably not sure if she should drink the tea because she doesn't want to have Christian's baby, that's for sure. But ultimately, I will say, although this is slow and very different episode, it's a very different episode, not just for House of the Dragon, but for Game of Thrones in general. We don't see episodes like this, and it was thought-provoking, and I really liked it. I really, really enjoyed what was going on here. Now, of course, obviously, warnings up for you guys. This, like I said, is sexually challenging. So if you're squeamish about that sort of stuff or you're not into it, it will challenge you in multiple ways, and you might want to be careful about who you're either watching with or if you want to watch it at all. At the end of the day, Daemon is once again, surprise, surprise, on the outskirts of his brother's affections. Rhaenyra is once again on the verge of being cast out as the heir. You could tell he's kind of he's like thinking, did I make a mistake as the big grandpapa? And Alicent is miserable as ever. Now, I've really liked Alicent in episode 1, but since then, like since she's basically became the king's woman, she's just boring, and I hope she does something. Now that her father's ousted, I think we're going to get some drama and some fireworks in that regard. Now, I will say this. I have been dissing Paddy Constantine's performance, and it's not his performance, it's his character. I hate the king. But watching his performance today and all these things, I'm going to say, Paddy Constantine as an actor is amazing. He probably deserves an Emmy. Or Golden Globe or something. He's amazing. But I will say, I do hate the king, but I love the actor and I love the performance. And so I'm tied of whether I want him gone or not. I'm not sure. It's like you hate the sin, but you love the sinner. Am I right? Did I say that right? I'm not sure. There you have it. I gotta say, I've seen some artwork, or screenshots of the next episode, and I think this was a slow one because episode 5 is going to be pure special effects, dragon madness, and more battles. I promise you this, and I can't wait for that. But the real question is, what did you think of this episode right here? Did you think it went too far in terms of sexual stuff? What is going on with Daemon and Rhaenyra? It's such a bizarre dynamic. It's like you're rooting for the relationship, but other times you're just so sick and disgusted by it. It's like my last few relationships. But anyway, remember to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and remember to keep tuning in to Voice of the Fat Mantis for more House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, and other fantasy reviews, interviews, and analysis, and all the nerd news that's fit to print. Till next time, ciao for now.